Here we go. Hey, everybody, it's Mike Pingel. Welcome to the Mike Pingel Show. Today we have the one and only Michael Stern. Yes, Michael Stern was the best buddies of the lady, the number one lady of comedy, Lucille Ball. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Michael. It's nice to see you again.
Do I sound like you? Because you work in the audience department at Dr. Phil.
Applaud! Yay!
Get them riled up. Get them riled up.
Absolutely.
Oh, my goodness. It must be weird working over there without actual audience.
Oh, the audience coordinator, producer, without seeing people in person is horrific. It's not the same. It's not the same.
Yeah.
I also don't have to wake up as early, so that's good too.
It's good for your beauty sleep. Yes. I mean, I even watching all the shows, talk shows and everything online. I mean, even this show. It's just so weird without people in the audience, and even sports is whack. I don't even watch sports, but now I watch it. I'm like, who would watch this? There's
Yeah,
nobody,
exactly. You need a live audience for the
live audience.
exactly. Exactly.
So today we are talking with you about your book. I had a ball with my friendship with Lucille Ball. Now, wow, I have so many questions about Lucille Ball.
Okay,
Now,
like what?
oh my gosh, I have a whole list. But when did you fall in love with Lucille Ball? With Lucy? When did you when did you first see her? When did that happen?
When? Well, believe it or not, it was not I Love Lucy. It was not any of her other sitcoms. It was in a movie called Yours, Mine, and Ours. It starred Lucille Ball, Henry Fonda. Henry Fonda had 10 kids. Lucille Ball had 8 kids. It was almost like the Brady Bunch. They fall in love, they get married, so they have 18 kids. And it premiered like a year before the Brady Bunch in 1968.
Wow.
So I was a little tiny baby.
Oh, you were.
I
So you were in the
was
womb when you.
just about. And it was one of the first movies I ever went to that my family said I actually sat still for the entire movie because something about this redhead, I was entranced. I mean, just
Oh.
I was able to go back to the same movie about a week later. That's how much I loved the movie. So it was also the first movie I ever saw twice.
Ooh.
Yes, fun fact. And a few months later, I saw an episode of I Love Lucy on TV. And it was my aunt who said, Michael, that's the same lady who was in Yours, Mine, and Ours. I had no idea because
Wow.
Yours, Mine, and Ours was in color, was about 15 years after I Love Lucy. I didn't realize it was the same lady.
Yeah.
So I fell in love with I Love Lucy. And I fell in love with Yours, Mine, and Ours, the same lady.
Wow.
And that's how it all started. And then I would watch I Love Lucy in LA. It was on in reruns at 7 p.m. every night. So at 7 p.m., I was watching I Love Lucy. That's how it all started.
You look so young.
I am 36.
36. There you go.
Yeah.
So with your favorite I Love Lucy, what's your favorite TV show of hers and your favorite movie? It doesn't have to be those two, but are those your two favorites?
Yours, Mine, Ours is my favorite movie of all time. I mean, hands down, it's still my favorite movie. No matter what movie I can see today, I love Yours, Mine, Ours. Sorry. But then everyone has to love I Love Lucy. I mean, there's so many episodes.
What's your favorite?
See, that's a question that when I talk to the studio audience, I bring up Lucy for some reason. Oh, I know why I bring up Lucy. I work on, the Dr. Phil show, and it films where Lucille Ball met Desi Arnaz in real life.
Wow.
So I always talk about the history of that stage, and I always bring up I Love Lucy, which was not filmed on that stage or even at that studio, but what's everyone's favorite episode. And people are from around the world who likes Dr. Phil, and they'll say, Vitamin and Vegemin, or the Chocolate Factory, or the Grape Stomping, or when she has a baby. My favorite episode is when she sells Aunt Martha's old-fashioned salad dressing. Just a great episode, and you can see the photo that there's the photo right now. is my favorite episode that she and Vivian Vance signed for me.
Ooh.
Yeah. So
Ooh.
I'm very excited about that episode. And but I fell in love also, besides I Love Lucy, a show called Here's Lucy,
Oh, yes.
which was Lucy's third series.
Didn't she have 5 series?
It started off with, well, radio, if you want to talk radio first,
Yeah,
My Favorite Husband, way before my time, way before, 2 decades before, almost. Then I Love Lucy, the Lucy Desi Comedy Hour, which is like a spinoff of I Love Lucy, because it was still Lucy, Ricky, Fred, and Ethel, but they were 1-hour episodes with mostly guest stars.
I don't think I've ever seen those.
They're rare, but they're available on DVD they're available everywhere at a store near you. And they would have Tallulah Bankhead as one of the guest stars.
Oh, God.
So many more guest stars.
Okay.
Red Skelton. They're actually really, really good episodes, and they're 1 hour long. Actually, one of them was 75 minutes long, which, if you think about television, they're usually either 30-minute slots, 60 minutes, 90 minutes, or 120, never 75. But
Yeah.
Desi Arnaz was such a powerhouse with Lucille Ball that they went to the network and said, we have a show, it's 75 minutes long. So they went to another show that was going to follow them, and they did a show for 45 minutes to make it right.
Wow.
Exactly.
That's
So
some Hollywood power.
exactly, you don't see that today. But after the Lucy Desi Comedy Hour, she left television for about a year and a half. She went to Broadway, did a musical called Wildcat. She came back to TV with Vivian Vance, and Vivian Vance played the very first divorcee on TV. I know. Very first. So that was the Lucy show. And after that ran for, 6 seasons. Then it almost continued on to Here's Lucy. But they had to retitle the show and new characters, and that went for another 6 years.
Nice. So what I know they own Paramount, and that's where their shows are done. Is that correct?
No, they own Desi Lou.
Okay,
And
where's
then,
Desi Lou?
I'm sorry?
Okay, explain to me all of that.
Desi Lou was formed by Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz, and production company, and they decided to purchase some studios.
Okay.
And it became like one of them is now was called Renmar Studios for many years, where the Golden Girls were filmed and things like that.
Okay.
But there were like 3 different Desi Lou studios at one time.
Oh, you're kidding. I didn't know that.
No, in Culver City and Hollywood. And when Desi Lou studios were actually sold, part of it was RKO Studios.
Okay.
And that's where like the Dr. Phil show films now, but Paramount Studios bought Desi Lou from Paramount. Wait.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they did own part of Paramount, was it?
The lot, yes.
The lot, yes.
And Paramount bought them out, and now they tore down the wall because Paramount was right next door to Desi Lou.
Okay.
So they tore down the wall, and now it's a big property of Paramount Studios.
Okay, no, that makes more sense. And the part in Culver City, is that where sorry guys.
I think
I'm trying to figure out where these things are.
Gone with the Wind, I think.
Yeah, the Gone with the Wind win the house. Okay, oh great.
Yes.
Great. I know. Everyone's now falling asleep for me trying to figure out where things are in Hollywood.
Yeah, and I could be wrong on that too. I'm not a historian.
I don't think you are. I don't think you're wrong on that. I don't think you're wrong.
Okay.
But when was the first time you met Lucy?
The very very first time I saw her. How's that? Can I start there?
Sure.
Okay. It turned out I lived in a city called Van Nuys, which is a small little suburb of Los Angeles. Very nice residential area. I mean, not Beverly Hills by all means.
No, it is nice, people. It's nice. I've been there.
Oh, really? Okay. With a passport?
Yes. Yeah, I have. I do the paperwork a lot because I go in the valley a lot. So yes.
Okay. So a small city. I mean, nice area. I grew up there. And turned out that my cross the street's neighbor, mother, boss worked on the Lucy shows. And here's Lucy. And so I was able to get a ticket to the show.
Ooh.
And it was actually on October 28th, 1971.
Wow.
I was not even a teenager. I was 10. You had to be 12 to get in.
Oh my goodness. You knew people.
Yeah. And I lied. I mean, they didn't ask, but I was really nervous at being not even 11. And you had to be 12 to get in. So I was nervous. And I went, my brother took me, who didn't want to go, but he took me. And we sat almost on the top row. And there was probably only like 6 rows of people, but like maybe 300 people. And we sat way up in the corner. And not the top row, because the top row, there was a gentleman named Jesse White, who was the Maytag man. Remember him? The
Yeah.
Maytag man? He sat behind us. So
wow.
it was like, he was probably my first celebrity that I ever saw, outside of, he was probably the first celebrity. And it was a thrill to see Lucille Ball come out of that curtain when she was introduced. Standing ovation. She ran from the center stage all the way down one end of the studio, all the way down to the other side of the stage, just waving with her red hair. I'll never forget it. It was probably the quietest I had ever been. I was in awe. Didn't get to meet her. I didn't think I would ever see her again, and it turned out I was able to get tickets a few extra times over 3 years or so. And on the third visit, on July 12th, 1973, July 12th, 1973, I went with my scrapbook of photos, and I took them to Lucille Ball's mother, who went to every filming of her daughter's shows. I mean, she was like the Robin McGraw of Dr. Phil. She was at every show. She sat center stage, and she loved the photos. She went through them. And it's funny because what I'll remember from this is that she didn't love, like the pictures of her from like the I Love Lucy days or whatever that was in my scrapbook. She liked, oh, here's a recent picture of her. Oh, doesn't she look good there? She was like being a mother. Oh, look at her hair there. Not so good. But she invited my mother and I to sit in her little section, which was dead center. And I sat right behind her because she said, how would you like to meet Lucy after the show?
You said no, thank you.
And so all I remember is my mom said, stop kicking her chair. Stop kicking. I was fidgety. It was like, so the guest stars were Steve Lawrence and Edie Gourmet.
Ooh.
And I can remember it like if it was filmed yesterday. But after the show, she said, let's wait here a minute. She had to wait until, the audience left.
Yeah.
And then we walked the opposite way, which was like to backstage. And I passed Lucy Arnaz, and I said, hi, Lucy. I was so excited to see her. But then we went to a place called Lucy Lane, which was behind the set of the Here's Lucy set. It was built by her construction guys, and it just didn't look like a normal backstage because there was a prop house, and there was a beauty salon. There was a wardrobe department. I mean, just like instead of a fake door, it was like painted like a really nice door. TV Guide once did a little expose on it, so somebody can look it up. They'll see backstage of Lucy Lane. And there she was, dead center in her dressing room on Lucy Lane, probably about 4 or 5 steps up. And here I was, 12 and a half, just staring at her, and she was 12 feet tall and beautiful. And she looked through my scrapbook, fast. And I said, could I please get an autograph? this was before cameras, and I wish I had a camera that day.
Oh yeah.
But a friend of mine named Henry Lamar actually painted a photo of what it would have looked like that day.
Oh
And
wow.
there it is. There it is. Okay. Yes, I love it. Okay. Isn't he good?
Very good. It's very, very
Yeah.
good. It's all on my. It's just on my face now.
Yeah. So she signed an autograph for me, and she gave me a kiss on the cheek, and then I walked away. And just a side note, my mom was also invited to go backstage to
Yeah.
meet Lucy, and my mom told Dee Dee, that was Lucy's mom, no, this is Michael's moment. And I didn't realize at the time how special that was, because everybody would want to meet Lucy or whoever, and no, this was his time. So a couple of years later, I got to have Lucy meet my parents.
Oh
So
wow.
that was nice. And this is fast forward, but we were at a place called Pips, which was a backgammon place in Beverly Hills
Ooh.
at a backgammon tournament. And she invited my parents to come. And about 3 hours later, my parents walked through the door, and I go, oh, there's my parents. Lucy literally got up from her chair and ran over to my parents and said, it's about time, and gave them a big hug, kiss, whatever. And I was like, she was such a motherly type person to me. She's we bonded.
Wow.
So it was really nice.
Wow. So now she later called you my number one fan.
Yes.
That's amazing. How did that happen? And how did it happen that you started working with her? And how did your friendship just blossom as it did?
I would see her from time to time. I was never a stalker in front of her house, or, well, actually one time, but I was never, but I knew my boundaries even at 10 years old, 11, and I always knew the difference between Lucille Ball, the actress, and Lucille Ball, the person. So I always gave her space or whatever. But at one time, I was at an event with her, and she took me backstage, and we had like an hour, and we talked about everything, school. And she said, never drop out of school. But she said, you could be my number one fan, but you better get a job, stay in school, then you could be my number one fan. And that's exactly what happened. I got a job at the May Company in North Hollywood, right next door to Van Nuys. And I called Lucille Ball's office, and I said, and her name is Wanda Clark, and who I talk to still to this day almost at least 2-3 times a week. And she now lives in Oklahoma.
Oh.
And I said to her, could you please tell Lucy that I got a job at the May Company in the linen department? And about a day or two later, Wanda called me and said, Lucy's going to come visit you.
Ooh.
I said, yeah, right. Okay. So Lucy came with her friend Mary Wicks. If you remember Mary Wicks, she's a character actress. She was in what's the one with the nuns and Whoopi Goldberg? Sister Act.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Sister Act. She was in so many shows. She always played a nun, it seemed like, in life. She was on Dennis the Menace. She was in so many sitcoms in the 50s and 60s and 70s, and Father Dowling Mysteries with Tom Bosley,
Yep.
Tracy Nelson in the 1900s, like 1990s.
Feels like it.
1900s. And they came together. And I didn't know the day they were going to come, but I happened to be working. Thank goodness.
Well, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. But she came from Beverly Hills to North Hollywood, which is not where the celebrities would hang out. North Hollywood. Ooh, okay. And when she arrived on the first floor, somebody called me from the first floor. You won't believe it, Michael. Lucille Ball's here. She went up the escalator to the second floor. Michael, you won't believe it, but Lucille Ball's on the way up the third. It was like I was being told step by step where she was, because the whole store knew I was a Lucy fan.
Yeah.
I greeted her at the escalator, and the first thing she said to me was, Michael, I don't want to meet any of your friends today. I'm really scared about, she didn't use the word scared, but she had like this phobia about walls caving in. She was happy being at home. She was happy being at the studio. She called it her arena. She felt safe. But being outside in other places, she couldn't really handle. Maybe like panic attacks, with everyone going after her. I remember nobody bothering her that day, but you could tell, and I noticed fans, maybe because it was North Hollywood, just in a big circle, just watching every move. And a little girl came up to her, maybe 30 minutes in, and asked for an autograph. And Mary Wick said, "Oh, she's not signing autographs today." And Lucille Ball said, "Heck, I am. Of course I am." And she signed an autograph, and that was the only person who really asked for an autograph. And so I rang everything up. And do we have time for a story?
Yeah, story.
Okay, good.
Do it.
So I rang everything up. She gave me her credit card, and her credit card did not go through.
Oh.
And she said, "I've had it for so long," or she couldn't find it at first or something like that. She thought maybe Dee Dee took it with her, and Dee Dee had passed away. So
that's really taking it
got
away.
the credit card. And, I rang it up, didn't go through. I had to call downtown, and I said, "Here's the credit card number, 555, whatever. It's Lucille Ball." And the lady said, "Get her ID." I go, "It's Lucille Ball. Get her ID." So I got her ID. "Lucy, I need your ID." "Don't you know who I am?" It's like, "I need your ID." So I got her ID. I read the number off her driver's license, and the lady said, "That's Lucille Ball." I go, "I've been trying to tell you that." Her credit card had not been used in about 30 years. So that's why it just needed to be updated. And that was it. She had perfect credit.
Of course. Yeah.
And then I decided to be a good salesperson. I delivered the items to her the next day because she invited me for dinner. And I was expecting, having dinner at Lucille Ball's house. We're going to have steak and lobster and this and maids and butlers. And no, it was 3 TV trays sitting in the den eating Kentucky Fried Chicken, watching Wheel of Fortune.
I love it.
Yeah. Buy that, by the letter E, So.
Oh, that's amazing.
There's a real person.
Yeah.
In a real house. It was the biggest house I had ever been to in Beverly Hills, 1000 North Roxbury Drive. But they described it as a very nice doctor's house. It was big. House. A doctor's house. I mean, like nice living, just.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. A few bedrooms, nice lanai, whatever. But like 37 telephones. A telephone, like wherever she was, there was a telephone. She didn't have to go, "Oh, there's the phone's ringing. I have to go over there to answer it." And she had rotary dial.
Oh, well,
but she did have other lines.
That's great. Now, when I was doing some research, you worked with her at her company at some point?
I worked with her. Well, I always got her discount when I worked at the department store. She loved my discount. But I worked on Life with Lucy, and that was the last series she did. She came out of sort of retirement, even though she did like Bob Hope specials, and she did a TV movie and called Stone Pillow. But this was another series.
And that was with Aaron Spelling, right? Was
Aaron Spelling, right, exactly. And whenever it was hot in the studio, they would say, "Aaron Spelling." See, Aaron, like turn on the air, a little inside joke. And Tori Spelling would come all the time. She was like 6 years old, 7,
Oh, wow.
Visit. And Aaron would come the first few weeks, and such a nice man, The show didn't do well, but the audience, I was also with the audience department, helping seat the audience, and I was in charge of the VIPs. And so an inside story, I'm really bad with faces and names. So after the first week, when somebody would come in, if they came in the second week, I would go, "Hi, how you doing?" Had no idea who they were anymore. Just But so my guest list was all messed up every week. You know, like did Barbara Rush come in? Yeah.
Oh no.
I didn't recognize faces, especially because they weren't really made up because they were sitting in the audience. Or,
Yeah.
but we did have celebrities that would come week after week. When they announced that she was coming back, the audience company that was handling it said they had more requests for that show before it even aired than any other show they've ever done. I mean, just people wanted to see Lucille Ball read, you know, the Yellow Pages.
Mm-hmm.
Do they still make Yellow Pages?
No, I don't. They
Yeah,
used to.
they
A
used
couple
to.
years
Okay.
ago. Yeah, I don't think they do
Okay.
anymore.
But they just sold out. Tickets were free. They should have sold them. I mean, yeah. People wanted to
Maybe
see.
the show was still going on.
Yeah. I remember being backstage when she appeared for the first time in front of the audience in the first scene. And it was probably a 2-minute ovation.
Wow.
You know, it was just everybody wanted her back. And every week, I mean, they just wanted to see Lucy, you know, succeed, and it didn't. They didn't want to see Lucy get hurt.
Mm.
You know, she was playing a grandmother and she was still doing physical stunts. She was 75 years old, but they didn't want to see her get hurt.
Yeah.
And it was, you know, that was it. You know, if they wanted to see her do slapstick, they could just turn the channel and watch all her other sitcoms.
Yeah.
Maybe if she had played a little older, you know, like a Golden Girl-ish type character, maybe. One of the last episodes filmed was with Audrey Meadows.
Oh yeah.
Who played her sister. And if that episode filmed first or second, and she found her Ethel.
Yeah.
You know, and it was too late. It was too late. But they were perfect. But they both had the same red hair. They both started in TV with The Honeymooners and I Love Lucy. They were so perfect with each other. You know, there were two pros, and that whole week was phenomenal. Another fun week was with John Ritter.
Ooh.
And it was one of the few times that Lucy actually broke up laughing during a scene, during a taping.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, he made her laugh. And she called it Ritteritis. Yeah. And he was such a great man. Oh my gosh. One of my items I'm going to be showing later on another show is, can I show it now?
Sure, show it now.
Yeah, since we're talking about, she did an episode of Three's Company. She was actually the host of the 100th episode of Three's Company, Lucille Ball. And she gave me her script. So it's just one of my favorite items. And
Nice.
and everybody who, you know, John Ritter and Suzanne Summers and Joyce DeWitt, they all signed it for me. So that's one of my favorite items.
And do they have her original writing of what she wanted to do?
Absolutely not. Believe it or not.
What?
It is just there is no changes.
She might have been one of those people that didn't write anything down.
Oh, well, she did on her show.
Did?
But I think by the time this got to her, because all she did was, it was probably a half a day shoot. She came in and said, do you remember the time Chrissy and Janet met Jack? Well, it started off and that was it.
Oh, so that, I actually haven't seen that episode. So, okay, now I understand.
It was a 1 hour special.
Like a flashback thing?
Yeah, it was a 100th episode. So she only got to interact with John Ritter for about 2 minutes.
Oh.
But it was all flashbacks. Do you remember the Ropers? You know, and then you saw film clips of the Ropers.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So.
Now, you spoke about backgammon. You used to play that with Lucy. Who won?
There's the picture. Well, she taught me how to play. But then sometimes, and I never said anything, but sometimes she would take 2 turns in a row.
What?
I know. And you can't do that in backgammon. But maybe she distracted me. Okay, my turn. You know, and double sixes. Well, it's a 3 and a 2. No, that means double sixes, you know.
So how did the book come about writing your experiences with her?
Well, I always had a lot of stories, and also the book is authorized by Lucy Arnaz and Desi Arnaz Jr. It's the only book that they both authorized besides her mother's book. It's not a tell-all book from Lucille Ball's point of view, because there's about 40 books out there that will say, my mother's manicurist Gardner said that Lucy did this. It's like, or thought this. How would you know what somebody was thinking, if you weren't the person yourself? So this book, called I Had a Ball, My Friendship with Lucille Ball, is my stories with Lucy. My stories. Now, if Lucy told me something, then it was in the book.
Mhm.
If it happened in her house, it's not in the book. Like, if something, no, there's some stories that took place in the house, like watching I Love Lucy with her one day on her birthday, the whole day watching I Love Lucy, which was something I'll
must be
never forget.
incredible.
It was so incredible. But there were, if I ever saw anything in the house, which was not,
I understand.
it was private,
Yeah.
and it stayed in her house.
Yeah.
I think anything that happened in her house should stay in her house. But playing backgammon at her house was fun, and those were fun stories or whatever. But so these are my stories, and people for years kept saying, "Oh, Michael, you need to put this in a book. You need to put this in a book." So it took about 5 years. The first 4 years, I sort of I worked on it for a day, then put it down for a month, and I remember some stories, so I didn't type in order. And then the next year, I Love Lucy was going to be 60 years old. And this year it's going to be 70 years old. So the book originally, the first edition came out 10 years ago this month, March 10th. Yes. Right now, basically.
The 10-year anniversary of the book.
Exactly.
Oh, goodness. Perfect timing.
Exactly. But the last year, I wanted it out for that. It was also going to be her 100th birthday celebration. So that's the reason I had it out. I did have it revised about 3 years ago. And this is the revised, which I recommend more, because it's there's another photo. We're playing backgammon. Isn't that great?
I think that's all you guys did.
Yeah. I mean, literally, you could go to our house at 7 a.m. We played backgammon. 7 o'clock at night, we were playing backgammon.
Wow.
But this book, there's a lot of color photos. Like if the pictures could be in color, they're in color, and there's a few extra stories. And it's also, other celebrities are mentioned in here. Carol Burnett, my love of Carol Burnett because of Lucille Ball.
Yes.
Another redhead. Florence Henderson became my second mom. Wow. After Lucy, it became Florence Henderson. And it was a fluke. I mean, just, why is this little kid from Van Nuys becoming friends with these older women? But we had some type of attraction, just we were pals, bosom buddies, as Lucy would say. I know. Well, that was a song from Maine. But Florence Henderson and we became friends in Las Vegas, and I was working in an awards show there that she attended every year called the Victor Awards, like Victor. And it was for sports, and for the proceeds went to the City of Hope, which she was very involved with, for kids and all that. And one night, I was supposed to have dinner with my parents at a restaurant at another hotel. And this was right before cell phones, and I knew I had to meet my parents at a certain location at the hotel. Couldn't find them at the hotel. Couldn't find them. I went to every restaurant, couldn't find them. My father hated buffets, just hated buffets. The only place I didn't check.
Oh, of course, because he hated them.
Yeah, that's where he ended up going with my mother. So I went back to the other hotel, the Las Vegas Hilton Hotel. Ooh. And Florence Henderson was still in the lobby because I had told her I was going to meet my parents. And she goes, "Good, then you're having dinner with me." And we had dinner together with her and her friends that own like Pepsi Cola and the Ferraris. Like, oh yeah, we invented the Ferrari,
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was like the 8 of us. I mean, it was like, here I am eating my, spaghetti, and it was such a fun night. And she gave me her phone number, and we started texting, shortly after that, and became really good friends. And so the book, the foreword of the revised, is written by Florence Henderson, and she wrote it 3 weeks before she passed away, 21 days before she passed away.
Wow.
So I recommend that book. It's just a nice book.
Nice. Yes.
Yeah.
And my last question, what was your favorite story with Lucy? Your favorite antic you did, the favorites, because I'm sure you guys got into some trouble. You know what I mean, Lucy?
She always said, don't be a quitter. Be positive. And I try to be positive, but never quit. And I try never to quit. I've been fired, but I never quit. And she goes, good, you could collect unemployment. But there's just a lot of stories, that we never talked about Lucy Ricardo, unless if she was in front of 3,000 people, talking about her shows, but at home or wherever, we talked about what was happening in the world today.
Yeah.
Just sweet moments, I remember one time early on, I had mentioned that my cousin just passed away of cancer. And she goes, oh, was it AIDS? I go, no, he wasn't gay. And she goes, Michael, AIDS is not a gay disease. Now, remember, she's been gone 33 years or so.
Yeah.
And this was way early on. And she knew more about life than I did. So she was teaching this, 15-year-old kid, the meaning of life, and she was right. Yeah. So, yeah.
Sounds like you had a ball.
I did. So.
Wow. So, Michael, where can people find you? Where can people buy your book? Where can people, I don't know, send you their memorabilia if they want to?
I'm on Facebook, The Lucy Fan. I know, but I'm not on MySpace anymore. So you know what? I'm still on Facebook.
I don't think anybody's on MySpace anymore.
Oh, okay. I just had to change my password on that. Okay, whatever.
Really? On MySpace?
No. A little bit on Instagram.
Yeah.
I'm the Lucy Fan on that one, but they go to my website. Yeah. My website has it. TheLucyFan.com. TheLucyFan.com.
And you're always at the collector show, sometimes selling your book and your wares.
I am.
When they come back, I hope that everybody goes, sees.
I know. It's scheduled for May. I hope it happens, but if not, it'll happen later on in the year.
Yeah,
it will happen. We will get back to real life, and I get to touch you again. Well, I've never touched you. Yeah, whatever.
Well, Michael, thank you so much for coming on and talking about Lucille Ball, the #1 comedian, redhead of the world, the icon, the woman in here that made us all laugh and still makes us laugh on reruns.
Every day. Every day.
Every day.
Fair enough. Nice talking to you. You look good.
Thank you. Pandemic's been not so good to me. Anyway. Everybody out there, thank you for watching the Mike Pingel Show. Please share, like, send me information, love, hearts, whatever. Also, if you're watching us on Happy TV, thank you for joining us here on the best LGBTQ streaming free movies, shows like mine, everything like that. So just subscribe and love it and enjoy Happy TV. Thank you so much.
Goodbye.
Michael, bye-bye.